Harry DJ Bones.
Thank you.
Welcome, brother.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Right, let's start from basics, like I asked everyone. So, you know, where was you born and raised?
I was born in Guildford, raised in Edgware and North London, and I'm a true North Londoner. So yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then is Richie's your only brother, really, or have you got an older sister or anything?
Well, I've got an older sister, older brother in Newcastle, and a younger sister as well. Yeah. So yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so that's cool. So, growing up, what music was you listening to?
As a kid, my parents listened to funk, soul, disco, jazz, high life. So pretty much dance music it was, you know, off the top. I suppose I listened to the charts a bit, but wasn't really that interested.
Nah, I get that. That weren't really interesting anyway, was it? To be honest.
Yeah, a few bits and pieces from when I was at school are guilty pleasures to this day. But yeah, you know, pop music wasn't really me. You know.
Nah.
It was all background. Yeah.
And then, like, so, how did the DJing come about?
Right. I suppose it came about because of some friends that my older sister had, and they had a sound and stuff, and so I used to go to some of the parties and the blues that they did. So I kind of was watching it from that, and then I suppose the early hip hop and electro and all of that stuff. I saw what DJs were doing. I tried to copy it and just got into it. You know, playing everything. I suppose back then when I was at school and I started playing out, I was playing funk, soul, disco, the early hip hop, that sort of stuff. At blues parties, which are essentially reggae parties, so I'd play the soul and funk and stuff. You know, yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I've had a few guests on it, and it seems like everyone that I speak to, it always goes back to the old hip hop and electro.
Yeah, and I suppose because, well, I suppose from playing soul and funk and all of that, and I suppose the DJs who I kind of would have followed would have been people like Froggy, Les Adams, show my age here, who did master mixes essentially, and there were people like from the States, like Latin Rascals and stuff like that, and listening to what they were doing, and then watching people DJing, you kind of think, oh right, this is what you're doing, and it was from that. And then I suppose when hip hop came in, it was taking those things with using different DJing skills, so adding other stuff to what other people were already doing, you know.
And I think, you know what, I think, to be honest, when they said like hip hop weren't going to work, I think that was a main genre out there that we was all listening to.
Yeah. When you say people say hip hop didn't work, I suppose I didn't really care. It was new, it was fresh.
It was there, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what it was. It was the same as what we had before, but it was just, I suppose, taking it to the next level. You know.
Yeah, it was sort of a different concept, weren't it? So
totally.
You know, I'd have been probably maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 when that first started knocking about. Do you know what I mean? I was quite young, so
yeah.
You know, I mean, I was speaking to Blame last week. I still got all the electro albums here. I think up to 22 or something, all on vinyl.
I've got. I think I probably bought about the first 4 or 5, maybe 6. No, maybe 6 or 7. And then after that, I wanted the 12 inches, and I wanted 2 copies of the 12 inches. So that's what I was wasting my PayPal money. Yeah.
So what record shops were you shopping in?
Right. So originally, I shopped in Bluebird in Paddington.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, and that was where I would go. Pocket money, milk run money, paper round money. I'd be down there early on a Saturday to get the early cuts. You know, I'd queue up, knowing that an import's coming out, and go and get it. You know.
Yeah.
Also, back in the day, places like R Price and HMV were pretty good for buying underground music. You know.
Yeah.
You could go and get decent imports from there. So it was kind of a mix of Bluebird, HMV, R Price, those types of places. And then as time went on, Bluebird shut, obviously, the one in Paddington did. I used to shop in Hitman Records in Soho, and shopped for a long time until they closed. I suppose as they all did, you know. Yeah. So
I've got so when did you first get your decks then?
Right, I would have been the first pair of decks that I would have had. I would have been about 14, and my dad had a belt drive turntable, which I killed, and I managed to get my hands on this little belt drive Seisho, but it had pitch control on it, so it meant I could do stuff, you know. And then just went on and just bought better decks as time went on. I mean, my first Technics I bought in, which I've still got actually. I would have bought in probably, but one maybe 87, one maybe 88, something like that, or early 87, late 87. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's funny because like when I speak to a few people, like I think everyone's started on bog standard stuff. I think, you know, when I first started, I had a Citronic pitch control on the top and a hi-fi deck that you couldn't mix a cake with. But it's something that you have to learn and practice on to get to that type of thing. Do you know what I mean?
I suppose the thing is, for me, it was at the time I couldn't afford Technics. You know, so I just needed anything that I could mess about with. And to begin with, I had one with pitch control, one without. So I could mix records, keeping it in time with my hand. I couldn't do that now. You use what you've got, isn't it? You know. And then there's time when I remember when I first played on a 1200, I was like, blimey, this is easy.
yeah. So I'm gonna say, right, so obviously you're quite a bit, you know, I think it's still now, you was quite a big part of the Pirate Club. How did you link in with Finbar?
Right, okay, so with the Pirate Club, so after I'd been knocking about with like my sister's friends and all of that, I started with a guy called Mark who had a reggae sound, and so I was part of the sound, and I, you know, carried
Ricketts.
Yeah. Was played in his sound. So we would do blues, we would do the carnival, we would do warehouse parties, we do, you know, all over the place. And then I think the Pirates started from, there was a warehouse behind the Beehive.
I remember that, you know.
And some people had squatted it. So it was just at the time when, I suppose, I mean, I can't remember, was it 86? Was it 87? Probably, maybe 87.
Yeah.
There's a group of people who squatted it, and we just started throwing parties every week, and that's pretty much how it was born. So Mark and Finbar got together, and from there we just went on and doing there, got kicked out of there, and just started doing other things, and it just went from strength to strength, really.
Yeah, because I've heard like people say like Mark was like probably the first person that started the acid raves in Edgware.
Yeah, and that would have been from having that warehouse. You know.
I honestly remember I was too young to, obviously, we used to try and bunk in the Beehive, and obviously that warehouse was around the back of it, weren't it?
Yeah.
And I remember guy rolling up to the door, and I was probably about 15, 16 at the time. They're like, "You're not coming in here, mate.
Yeah.
You're not even old enough."
Yeah. I mean, it was funny back then, because I suppose in those times when we first started the warehouse, it wasn't just house music. We'd play funk, soul, disco. The house that was coming out, the acid that was coming out, it was just yeah.
And you know what? Like, obviously, when I was that age, I couldn't pick up them tunes, because if you're listening to a pirate radio station, it would not dish out the names of them songs.
Yeah.
But for me, you know, when I hear some of that stuff from 87, 88, 89, is like ridiculous. Like, I know that you must have loads of them tunes.
Oh, got a fair few, yeah.
I'd say so as well. So, you know, when like all that was kicking off, that was such a good time. For, like, you know, I'd say for you, when you was like, when that was just creeping in. If you've teamed up with Mark and you've teamed up with Finbar, there's nothing, because obviously Mark's got the KCC rocking sound system, isn't he, at Notting Hill?
So that's what he does now. Yeah.
So do you reckon that boosts your career?
I would say, of course, it's a case of being right place, right time, really, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I would say when we were doing that warehouse, there were other people doing similar sorts of things, but there wasn't many. And we were throwing good parties. People were coming, people were travelling, people were talking about the Pirate Club and the raves there. So yeah, of course it did. I can't, I suppose if I hadn't played at those parties, there would have been people from some of the other raves who might not have heard me play or might not have given me the opportunity. So of course, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So the Pirate Club then did it take status at Roller Express, didn't it?
Yeah, then it had a permanent home at Roller Express for a good while. Yeah.
So what was it like playing there? Because there must have been then like all the other names involved. So you must have played with a lot of.
Yeah. But I suppose for me being young, it's like, and even back then, they were just other DJs. We were all just doing something new and having fun, which is what it was. I didn't really think, wow, look at who I'm playing. But I'm just like, yeah, I'm getting to play to all these people on the regular, know. And that was it for me. It was all about that and all about having fun.
But I think when I see when I used to see on their Bones, even though you're from the same area as me, I didn't know who you was. When someone said Bones, I didn't know until someone said Tony Sawyer, and I'm like, yeah. I sort of know who he is because he was in my sister's year at school.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, it's funny. It's like, so Bones is my nickname, and so it wasn't probably till Facebook started that people started to call me Tony, because just, out and about, people call me Bones. Well, so yeah.
Well, I sort of knew that quite a few years ago, and as we was having a conversation about it, like I think it was like last week or the week before, that I didn't even know that I was speaking to your brother when I was working with him until he actually said who he was, and I'm like, mate, I've been working with you for the last week, mate, and you just we just had this conversation here, so it's like really weird. So just going to stop for a second. So do you reckon you inspired your brother to DJ? Because he's a DJ now as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite funny. So back then, he didn't really DJ. He DJ'd, and so I'd have all my gear in there with the people who we used to hang about with. And if I wasn't in, they'd go and mess about on my decks. I mean, it used to really annoy me, but yeah, they would. So putting records in the wrong cases and burning them and stuff like that. Yeah. I used to lock my record boxes. They break in. I used to take the fuse out of my amp so they couldn't play, and they find it. Yeah.
I suppose well, you know what? I mean, if it stops them doing what they got to do, and then back then 1210s are quite expensive, so yeah. I think you've got to do what you've got to do. So
yeah.
So you've done the Pirate Club at Roller. Is there any other big raves that you've done like that?
I suppose back then, most of the raves I played at. The only ones I didn't were probably Sunrise and Back to the Future, but Energy, Biology.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
All of those. Yeah. It was good times. It was good. Yeah.
That's something like when someone mentions Biology, man, I'm like, wow, that sort of sends like chills down my back, because it's we all know that was a major.
Yeah.
Major
so the first Biology that I played at was the one in Aldenham, just
right
from where we grew up. So yeah, that was good. That's special. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I can imagine. I bet you there was tons of people there, weren't there?
Yeah. That was a good night.
So pushing on from like that era, did you go into the hardcore scene and the jungle scene?
Not really. So I suppose probably would have been about 1990, wouldn't it, when the music started to, I suppose from late 89 through 90, and as it went to 90, it kind of started to change. And then I went over to LA to go and live there. Came back, and when I came back, it had split into two scenes. It that much, so they were two distinct scenes. And I suppose with the hardcore at the time, I didn't really. It wasn't me. And some of possibly the hardcore and the happy hardcore and stuff like that is not me. The jungle and stuff I get, and I suppose at the time, I got it. I just didn't rave to it. Do you know what I mean? I still don't rave to it now, but I like the music and I like some of it. Some of it, I suppose it's like all music. Some's good, some's bad, isn't it? You know. So.
Yeah. So do you think? Because obviously, you know, I'm just going to ask you this because you know, I think when you look back from the acid house, the hip house, all that era, the back to 89, 88, 89, obviously there had to be like not burnt itself out, but something had, because obviously Sharp and Dance were edging that way. Out of that thing. So you know, I think it sort of edged out into that hardcore thing, and then it went, as you say, it went two different ways, didn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, I suppose even before that, there was kind of the house, the acid house, and then there was the kind of more chilled out Balearic vibe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I suppose, and we've all seen there's always splits, and you know, a little bit of branch off, and it'll become this. So yeah, it's just that's the way it goes, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, I mean, like you know, don't get me wrong. For me, when you see, as a kid growing up, when you see that stuff, it's always a progression of something that's made, you know, a lot of people think, they don't think about the roots where it's come from. Do you know what I mean? So a lot of kids, if you said to them, I don't know, I'm just picking jungle for the system, they'd be like, yeah, I know what it is. But if you ask them the true meaning of it, they wouldn't know what it means. They wouldn't know where it come from. They wouldn't know.
Yeah, I suppose I hear that. I suppose. Yeah, because if you I mean, it's even with hip hop. I suppose hip hop back in the day, because it was so new and that you would know that it's come from funk and all of the records that they're sampling and stuff like that. Maybe now, so if you'd grown up in a later age, I suppose it doesn't really matter. It's just the music you like, isn't it? And I suppose it depends whether. I mean, like for me, I collect music. I have done for a long time, so since I was young. So I kind of have that. I have that mindset to think about where things have come from. What have you used? Oh, you've done that, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, you know, there's people like yourselves, and I think there's, like, I'd say for 90% of the people that when you listen to a song, you'll know where it comes from. You'll be like, oh yeah, they've sampled that from so and so, blah de blah.
Sometimes I might not know, but it will pique me where I think I need to go find out what that is. You know,
got the rough of it.
They've used that one, you know, 3 beats out of that, and that's those sorts of things.
Yeah, because like I hear people going, oh, you know what, that's a really good song, and you're like, you know what, that's the 5th remix down the line.
Yeah, I mean, you hear that a lot of time. I remember it was my 50th actually, and I played Pride of Deeper Love,
right?
And I came out in some quite, you know, probably early 20s. Who'd come with other people, and they went, "Oh, what remix was that you played of that song?" And it's like, "No, that's the original."
that's the real one, man. You know what I mean? So look, someone's just asked a question, but I think we're gonna. I think that. So the best venue you played out and crowd wise.
I suppose that's a hard one. You know, different parties have different qualities for different reasons. You know, it might be the venue, it might be the sound system, it might be the crowd, it might be all of them. You know, it might be 2 of them. Probably, I would say one of the most, probably the most memorable for me was playing at the Biology at Aldenham. You know, that was that's special. Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
So, like, so what do you DJ now? House.
Yeah, house. If you were to book me for me to just come and play what I play, it's going to be mainly house. But I will, you know, I might drop an acid house tune, I might drop a funk tune, I might, you know, just mix it up a bit.
Would you ever go back to that? If someone, you know, you got to think, if you know, when you started out, was that like your main thing though, acid house and that type?
No, right. Like I said, when I started DJing, I played everything.
Yeah,
you know, it wasn't you play one genre. But I suppose once house took over and started, it is predominantly house, or house kind of, you know, around the speed of house. You know,
well, I think
up tempo dance music. Yeah,
I think, you know what, we need to thank like house, because literally that's been a forte of a lot of the genres.
Yeah.
Today, because if you go back, everything ends in house back there. So hip house,
yeah,
acid house, you know, and a lot of people forget where it comes from.
But then I suppose if you take it back a step further back than that, it probably all came from disco. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Happy dancing music. You know, it's that kind of speed. So that's what I like to play. You know, it would be nice to go somewhere and someone says, "Bones, right, play what you like." You know, and you can play 4 hours and you can play everything and anything.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I suppose, in today's world, you don't get places where that's allowed. Not allow's the wrong word, but where that happens. You know, if everybody goes, they're kind of quite narrow in what they want to hear. You know? Yeah.
Well, you know what? You can always do a guest show on UPFront with Acid House.
Okay, yeah. Maybe one day I will. Yeah. That'd be fun. Yeah.
So you know, we obviously were speaking the other day. You know, you were saying about liquid drum and bass.
Yeah.
Is that something that do you listen to liquid drum and bass? Because I feel it's quite. I feel like it's quite a genre that's forgotten about, and I think.
I suppose for me, it's like because I like instrumentals.
Yeah.
For them to be quite interesting and not just beats. Now, don't get me wrong, there are songs that are just beats that are good, but if you're having a lot of that, they have to be a bit jazzy, so they've got a bit of a melody or story or all of that. And in terms of liquid drum and bass, it's the same sort of thing. It's drum and bass music, but just with jazzy sort of interludes.
Yeah,
you know, which is the music I like. Yeah, you know, and I like that across all genres. You know, I go for the jazzier type of music, though there are some bangers and deep stuff, you know. So,
yeah, but like you're saying, I think like when you hear some of that stuff, the liquid stuff is some of it's really good. You know, there's that jazz element, there's that chilled out sound to it, even though it's drum and bass.
Yeah. And I suppose it's like not far away. It's soulful. It's all of those things, but it still has that, you know, up tempo beat. So yeah. Not that, but I do. You know, when I hear it, or you're out and you might be in a shop and you think, "Oh, what's that?" And you go and ask someone, and you'll Shazam it, or do you know what I mean? And then you know, come back and then you find a whole lot more, isn't it? So
yes,
yeah.
So did you? So obviously, I'm gonna go back to when you was like collecting records. Did you ever go into Black Market or Unity or anything like that round and mash?
So in terms of shopping in the West End, I shopped only in Hitman, because I suppose at the time and at the right time, all the other DJs were going everywhere else. So I was going Hitman. Right. You know, Hitman shut down, and then I started going to Groove Records.
Yeah, I know.
Till they shut, and then after that, it was probably went to Pure Groove in Archway for a while.
Yeah,
and then Towns. Didn't really do Black Market because I suppose I wasn't somewhere who was going there all the time. So, you know, they go, "Have you got this?" And I go, "No." And someone else walk in, they pull it out. I thought, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
You're taking money. I'll take my money elsewhere where someone's going to sell it to me. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, I think there's always the element of when you go to, like, obviously not now, but back in the day when if you only go into a shop a couple of times and they don't know your face.
Yeah.
I was probably like it when I was, because I was spending loads of money in all them shops. You know, Release the Groove, blah blah, and until I think they know your face and you're on a regular.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, what you say.
I would, you know, as you know, if you're out buying records, if you're in the West End, you're going to go in every shop because there might be that one you might not get. But in terms of main shopping, I had certain shops and they used to sort me out.
Well, I think, like you're saying, if you go to those shops that not everyone went to, they've got all the records there. So why wouldn't you go to those smaller shops?
Yeah, I mean, I think back, and there was even a shop when I worked in Barnet. There was a shop that Ty Holden and this other guy used to run, and it was, I could look out of, like, say, it was across the road and around the other side of the block. I was in there. Right. So they told me, "We've got this delivery. You need to come down here." Like, I've got so many, like, you know, one off, and you look now and you think, "Oh, I've done all right there," isn't it? So yeah,
it's so, like, when you're saying it, when we're saying about record shopping, I actually miss those days of not going in them shops. And I know technology moves forward and stuff, but
yeah, of course. I mean, like I used to love going to the record shop. So I would, I suppose, I would probably sometimes take a day off work, take a half day off work, go to the record shop, hang out, and you'd go and see what's in there. You'd have your big pile and you go through that, and they go, right, do you want to go have a look in the back and see what you might have missed? And I'd do that, and that's perfect.
I think that's what most of us done. I'd spend at least 2 days up the West End if I've missed on something. You can be in those record shops and those records would just go like that.
Yeah. So in terms of that and digging and finding stuff, I love it. I miss it because I suppose there's all the social and everything when you're in the record shop and all of that. But it's the cost and the space. You know what? You just hit a nerve there, because I think that's to do with a lot of people go, it's the space. Now, I know the guy that runs the station with me, Stu. He said, by the way, you're on at 6 o'clock, if that's all right. No, he said the same thing about he had no space in his house, so he had to get rid of all his records. I mean, I'm lucky that I live on my own and I've managed still I've got all my records, but I did have all my music in another room before. Yeah. And it was getting to the point where, before people come sit around and we just listen to some music, and it's like they'd have to sit in another room because there was just enough space for me to stand, and it was on the floor. And it's like, you just think to yourself, and then you buy records and you think, right, where am I going to put? I'll move these here, and then you've got another pile, and it got stupid, So,
I think I'm like you, because I've got my own old living room. Yeah. So I've got an 8x8 living room. So I'm quite fortunate in a way that I've had I've got racking and stuff like we all do. So it's sort of a blessing. So what you do? Are you on a station now, or? I
do a show on a Saturday on a station called Real House Radio, where I just play house, just play any house, anything and everything, however I'm feeling, do that, do a few guest shows for other people and stuff, so it's something I'll always do, I can't see there would ever be a time that I would stop mixing music. If I'm not playing out, I will still do it at home, because that's what I do, and that's what I've done since I was 14. So
yeah. Well, I've got a question to ask you.
Yeah, go on.
Being serious, so all the artists out there at the moment, so the DJs are not working, are they?
Yeah.
What the statement of them saying that you should retrain and get another job?
Right. Okay. Right. The thing I'll say there's a lot of DJs out there who DJ and probably have other jobs anyway. Yeah. For the ones who it's their main source of income, it's hard. It's like, why would you retrain? Because, well, I suppose unless they're saying that industry's never coming back, then you have to retrain, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think what's going on in the world at the moment is crazy. They shouldn't be left out. The artists like that, but then, however, I know it's people who are kind of self-employed like that. It's how do you say what they should and shouldn't get? Someone who's got a regular job and it's X amount a year, it's 10% of this or 50% of that. If you're a DJ, you might have 3 good months and have 6 months of nothing. So and then 1 year you might have got loads. So I don't know. I don't really know the answer to that.
That's cool. I was just someone in the comments asked it, so I was like, you know what, we're here, we might as well ask you.
Yeah. I suppose I'm lucky. I've got a proper job, so, and that's what pays the bills. So
yeah, I should imagine all them boys, unless you've not harvest no money up and you've shot it all down the drain.
Yeah, but I know a lot of people who play a lot and they have other jobs as well, because it can be good, but then it's not regular. So there might be times when you're not earning for a while, because I mean, like now, were we back to normal, they've had 7 months of nothing.
Yeah. So I'm going to. It's coming up for like past, so I said 30 to 45 minutes. So, any advice to any up and coming DJs to progress?
To progress, right. Right. I would say practice, yeah. Know your music. And in today's world, you've got to be prepared to sell yourself, you know, and go out there and so when sell yourself's probably the wrong word, but make yourself be seen, you know. And if you can be seen and you've got everything else behind you, then yeah, why not? You know, that's the thing. But you know, don't give up. Find your own sound as well.
Right.
Yeah.
One more last question.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to the acid house, hip house days, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Favorite tune? That's put you on the spot, isn't it?
You can't ask me that. There are. I mean, I could probably reel off. I don't know. I wouldn't know where to start, honestly.
one tune, just one tune.
Right, okay.
That sticks in your head.
Right, one tune from back then that sticks in my head from back then. Okay, I'm going to say one, and one. It's probably one that I played and I battered quite a lot. It's not actually a house tune. De La Soul, I know, the CJ McIntosh remix.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
so, yeah, that's a song for me, probably from those times that you hear and you think, oh, you know, always, yeah.
Right, right, Bones. Thank you ever so much for coming on, mate. I've really enjoyed this chat because basically it's what gives everyone what you're about. You know, I know your name. And I know there's another few people like that. Probably there's like people who are watching this probably don't know that name. So now you've explained it. Yeah, they know you're part of the Pirate. They know you went to the Roll Express.
Yeah. Ooh,
you know, big name.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Well, you was there. You was there when it was all happening. You
know
what
I mean? You know, it's like I look back and you think, yeah, I was part of something that changed, I suppose, people in London, well, people all over the country's outlook.
Yeah.
You know, from before everything was very, I suppose, compartmentalized, and there were people who did only a certain thing and listened to certain music with a certain type of people. The time when kind of house break, everybody just came together, and it didn't matter where you were from, what you looked like, or what you did as a job, or where you lived.
And that's what I was going to touch down on. And I think, you know what, a lot of racism ended there as well, because everyone was raving with each other.
I mean, it's quite funny when you look back and you think, yeah, it did. But then when you look at, say, possibly the last 3 years, just what's been going on politically, did it really go? Because it's been bubbling under the surface all that time, and it's just now starting to bubble up.
I think you have those idiots that are still around, you know, these mindless numpties, man. But yeah. I think, you know, we all knew what it was back in the 70s and 80s. You know, these narrow-minded so-and-sos. I'm not going to swear.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I found when I was like 89, 90, 91, there were a lot of blacks, whites, Chinese, everyone. All in one club raving.
Of course. And I suppose, yeah, there is a lasting legacy of that, of a lot more people are more tolerant of each other. It's not even just tolerant; everybody's together. You know, and you can see that. Going back to like when I went to LA, and that was one of the reasons why I came back. It was like a year before the Rodney King riots, and one thing I noticed when I was out there and I was playing out there, if you went to a black club or you went to a white club or you went to a Hispanic club or you went to a gay club, and it wasn't everybody was together. You know, you wouldn't see groups of people of all races in a car together. That was one thing that really stuck out in my mind from LA. Yeah.
Nice, mate. Last question. Favorite DJ?
That's easy. Jazzy Jeff, hands down.
I said that the other day about him, Kid Capri, Grandmaster Flash. Right, dude, I'm going to let you go. Thank you ever so much for joining us on UPFront, mate.
Having me, yeah. And yeah, I'll do a guest show sometime. We'll talk about that and work it out. Yeah.
Thank you, Bones. Thanks ever so much, brother.
Yeah. Cool. Peace,
Take
man.
it easy, mate.
Yeah, man. See you later. Yeah. Bye.